great. All right. Awkwardness. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Miss Medina. I am not a teacher here now. I'm the community school manager here. And I'm actually who bought the magazine initially. And so I actually, one of the questions was, how did you find this magazine? And I followed one of your authors, Noha, on Instagram, and I bought some of her. She made some bags and some really cool like feminist art, and I really enjoyed it. So I have some of that at home, and from there I found this magazine, and I was like, I definitely, as a Yemeni myself, wanted to support anything that was creative by other Yemeniyat, and so give me to wait for that. So I bought the magazine, and we had a community walk day where our students celebrate their Arab identity, and this is something I brought to celebrate, and that's why we're here today. So I just wanted to introduce our school. This is Oakland International High School in Oakland, California. It's a school made up of all newcomers. So all of our students are newly arrived immigrants from different parts of the world, and we have a large Arab and Yemeni community here. And so our students are super excited. I think one of the exciting things about this book is it's not just a traditional representation of being Yemeni, but it's also artistic and creative, and it really speaks to how multifaceted our Yemeni women are. And so I'm really excited for you all to be here with us today. I'm super pumped about this, and I think the students, as you can tell by the artwork that they've created. So we'll get started. We have a list of questions, but maybe if we could have you all just introduce yourselves really quickly.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
No. I'll ask if you want to go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Medina, for the introduction. It's really beautiful to hear that firstly Al-Yamaniah magazine reached you where you are, and we're so happy to hear that it resonated with you, and that it was something that you also got quite excited about. It was definitely exciting for us. Just to introduce myself properly, sorry, I know the label doesn't come up, it comes up as Al-Yamaniah. I'm Asma as well, Asma Ibrahim. I don't know if that helps to distinguish between the two of us. And I was the editor of the magazine, and I sort of started the project. I started working with Noha, so you might know her as Inti Bint online, back in 2020 when Al-Yamaniah first started. So I've been sort of on Al-Yamaniah in general since sort of the earlier days. And the magazine is a project that we started sort of around like 2 years ago, essentially. So it was a bit of a later thing coming out of the Instagram. I'll pass on to Asma to introduce herself as well.
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you all. And yeah, like it's really lovely to hear that like something that we like created in like, I don't know, our bedroom, like has reached like another continent, and that someone wants to like talk about it. That like, that's just really nice to hear. And yeah, I'm also Asma. I'm Asma Hamdi. I've actually met Asma Ibrahim when she reached out to me about the project. I mean, we kind of thought like, yeah, we're gonna do a small zine, but then we didn't. And I met Asma because Noha introduced us, which was quite nice. And then we started working on the project. And the project actually, it took around a year for us to complete. It wasn't meant to, but it did. But it turned out to be like quite different from what we anticipated in the beginning. But it was just nice.
I thought I should also say, so we're both Yemeniyas, but our background's slightly different. So I was born and raised in the UK in London, and I'm very much like, I guess, connected to Yemen through my mum's side of the family. And I visited a few times as a child, but we sort of stopped going in 2014 because everything got a bit complicated after the Houthi coup and all of that. So it's been a long time. And that's probably also one of the big motivators behind this project, was like not being able to go home or like go back to visit Yemen, and a lot of nostalgia, which you probably feel when you look at this magazine. There's a lot of kind of like rose tinted glasses in some ways, of thinking of the really lovely things that we have memories of or think about.
I think to introduce my background, I'm half Czech, half Yemeni. So I was born in Yemen, in Sana'a, but I grew up in the Czech Republic. But I like grew up speaking in Arabic because so I was connected to Yemen through my dad. And then I moved to the UK around 8 years ago. And I do agree, this project, I think like what was quite nice is that there are represented artists who live in Yemen and also in the diaspora. And I feel like because we are from the diaspora, like our outlook was kind of like that nostalgia, but then it all like kind of came in together. We were trying to like represent like all as many voices as possible. But yeah, then like the nostalgic element was definitely there. Like I was feeling that.
Okay. What inspired you to create Al-Yamaniah?
Oh yeah, your name.
Before I want to introduce myself, my name is Shouq. I was born and raised in Qatar, but I'm from Yemen. So my Shaikhah and Sarah. So all of us were born and raised in Qatar, and when we saw this book, like we've never been to Yemen, so it made us feel connected. And it feels nice to like see a book full of your culture and get to know your culture more through it. Yeah.
I think I felt the same because I've been to Yemen a few times just for the summer and I remember it, but I only remember certain parts. And then we had some submissions that to me, it's like, oh, I didn't know about that. But someone else would be like, oh, I remember that. So I know what you're talking about. It's like that because I never actively lived in Yemen. It's like, I don't know everything, but it's the like, okay, this is my culture. That's nice.
Yeah.
I would say in terms of what inspired us to make it, Al-Yamaniah started as a sort of Instagram page slash online project. It started during COVID, so it was, I guess that's sort of how it made sense to run. And so we were posting lots of things online, and everyone was on their phones like 24/7 basically, because no one was allowed to go outside on all of these things. And it was one way to connect and do interesting projects. And I was really excited to be involved in in a project that connected me to Yemen in some way. But it was also after a few years I felt that I don't know if anyone else had that kind of fatigue of like that constant being online and all of this and not feeling connected to things and people in real life. Maybe that was also like lockdown exhaustion. But I sort of felt that way, and I thought, is there a way to bring Al-Yamaniah to the real world, in a sense? Is there a way to kind of break our dependency on like, I guess, digital media in some ways? And I think I've come to appreciate print more and more. And I remember just thinking to myself, maybe we should make a zine, maybe like some kind of physical representation of all the artwork that we share, and the kind of the network of artists that we've created over the past few years. And so that was sort of the idea. And I was like, I'd love to do something that brings us into the real space. So I contacted Asma Hamdi, who is the creative director of the magazine. So she did all of the digital work, all of the creativity and fantastic layout and design and all of these things. It's Asma Hamdi's fantastic work. I knew I could sort of come to it with maybe like editorial skills and like do the curation and organization, but I didn't have the kind of graphic design, I guess, background or ability. And I knew I would need someone to to support my dream if I wanted it to come to reality. So I have to say that this would not exist without Asma Hamdi agreeing to give up her soul and her life to bring this to life.
Yeah. Related to that note on her being a graphic designer, what was your major in college?
Erika Ramos, please come to the office. Erika Ramos, a la oficina, por favor. Erika.
Repeat.
Yeah, maybe love it.
So, what was your major in college or university?
So I initially came to the UK to study politics. I didn't do that for very long. I only did that for a year. And then I studied, it was called fashion communication and styling, and I focused on like photography. That was at university. I studied like photography. So before this project, I didn't have any background in graphic design, and that made it not easier, more difficult. So yes, after graduating, I kind of did a bit of fashion photography and a bit of like assisting photographers. And when Asma Ibrahim approached me with the project, I was thinking, yeah, of course I can do that. Let's do that. I also didn't know like how big of a project it was going to be, but I feel like, yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did after uni. Yeah, I've actually been building this website for like the past 6 months, and I'm not fully done with it, so it might not properly work. But I think since this project, I kind of got more excited about graphic design and digital art, I think. I'm not entirely sure what like the correct terminology is, but like just like mixed media, but yeah, like my major was actually in fashion photography.
Guys, do you think that's crazy that she was like, I've never done graphic design before I did this magazine, and then she just did this, and it's amazing. I think you should take that as inspiration, guys. Like, not the sky is really the limit. Just try out some stuff and get experimental. You never know what you could do.
Well, that's amazing.
I think what made it easy, like what was really amazing is that I feel like normally like in the industry you have a brief and you have a limited amount of time. And even though we did have deadlines, because it was mainly me and Asma working on it, I feel like I had like a very like I had a lot of creative freedom. So I was like learning to use apps to do this as we went, which I feel like if it was a stricter brief and a limited amount of time, it would be harder. But this like allowed me to work on the magazine, but also like progress and learn, if you know what I mean, which was just really nice.
What made you name the magazine Al-Yamaniah, and does it have a special meaning to you?
So there was a good period where we thought we were going to call it Eldar. It's now called like the Eldar edition, but there was a good long period where we thought, yes, this is going to be the Eldar magazine. And I assume most of you are Arabic speakers, but anyone who isn't, Eldar basically means home, or like the home in Arabic. And that was the overall theme of it, to be honest. It was like, how can we connect to home through like art? And it, in the end, we switched it to Al-Yamaniah because Al-Yamaniah as a project, like from the very beginning, was all about centering like Yemeni women. And it was about centering female artists specifically. And that this was Noha's, I guess, like founding vision when she created Al-Yamaniah. And in the end, we thought to ourselves, like, this is the team that's making it, but also all of the work in here is by Yemeni women. And it just seemed to make the most sense. It just tied everything together. So in the end, we called it the Eldar edition as a kind of like thing that tied it all together. But I think it's because like front and center, like it's Yemeni women, like that's quite literally front and center. and actually on the back too. Sorry, that's got stickers on it. But yeah, I think that's just, it says what it does on the tin in the end.
I think with the title as well, I feel like, yeah, when we were changing the name to Al-Yamaniah, we were also thinking how it connects back to the Instagram page. So even like in terms of promotion and like promoting the magazine, like would we have to make a separate Instagram account? Al-Dad, like I've been feeling like since we renamed it to Al-Yamaniah, it's been kind of easier to talk about it, and it's been more tight with Al-Yamaniah as a platform, which I feel like, yeah, at the end of the day, it goes back to Yemeni women, so it kind of like made sense.
So what are the challenges you face with making this magazine?
I don't know where to start. So many challenges. I think lack of experience was probably a challenge, because before we printed out the final print, we did 7 test prints, which I found out is not like the standard. I remember I was talking to one lady that I know who's been working in like designing magazines for like 15 years. And she was showing me this project and she was telling me, now we'll just print it. And I asked her if she's going to do a test print. She was like, no. And I was thinking, I could never, like, I need a test print. Because when we first printed it, the colors the font was too big, because like I've never printed anything before. I didn't realize that, I don't know, font 14 is too big, because I've only seen it on the screen. So I feel like a lot of the technical things like colors, I don't know, RGB, CMYK, like the printers would send me so many messages with so many errors. So I feel like the technical element was a challenge. It was great, like a great learning experience, because now we know. And now we know that font 14 is a bit too big. But like in general, I feel like the technical part was quite big. Another thing that I think might have been a challenge was that our team was quite small. We've had help, but I feel like, for example, when we finished the magazine, we didn't have that much energy for the promotion, which I feel like was like an important part of it, and like the marketing and all of that. So I feel like, yeah, maybe that was also quite challenging. What do you think, Asma?
Yeah, I think we didn't have enough hands for the size of this project. That's also partially because the planning and what we planned versus what you have in front of you is not the same thing. What we planned was something really small, like maybe 50 pages. Like what you have in front of you is about just under 300 pages. It was not supposed to be anywhere near this big. So we thought it was going to be manageable between the two of us doing like the bulk of the work, and then like a couple of members on the team doing things like translation and things like that. I think it just kind of got a lot bigger than what we expected. So that meant the workload was bigger, but we weren't able to spread it or distribute it in the way that probably we should have done it, which is why we were quite exhausted by the time we launched it. I didn't have as much energy for like promotion and like getting it out there, because it just taken so much time to actually put the work together. And this is, I think, lack of experience, in the sense that we were just figuring it all out as we went along. Like I've never edited a magazine before. As was never put one together. We just went for it and like hoped for the best, which I feel like is one of the big things I would recommend to people, like as a learning curve. Like if you have a vision in your mind and you're excited about something, that's all you need, I think, to propel you forward. Like you're excited, you can kind of figure it all out as you go along most of the time. Like even money and like skills and all of these things, we just figured it out as we went along, and I think that made it a more of a meaningful process as well. And I don't know, I'm very what's the word, okay, I can procrastinate things in my life quite a lot, but
Not as much as
But I was very like there's like public pressure and accountability when people are giving you their work for a magazine and you have to like deliver. So I felt like that kind of accountability and sense of like, okay, we must deliver this thing for all of these people was just like really great drive to keep this going forward. And that was exciting. I think that was the sense of like, okay, there's a community here that everyone's invested and excited to see it come to life. And so that was really fun. But yeah, maybe I mean, okay, I will say this as well. When we put out a call out online asking for submissions, basically no one submitted any work. Like no one. Okay, not no one, but like 5 people, which is fine, which is great. Like, thank you 5 people for submitting your work. Like, we really appreciate it. That was over a 6-week period. So that's also why we didn't think it was going to be a big project, because we were like, oh, not that many people are, you know, like submitting work. And then we put out like a final like reminder, like, oh, the deadline's in 1 week, like don't forget to submit your work. And somehow this hit on the algorithm. Like Instagram suddenly loved this, and it was like being liked and shared everywhere. And I was like, what's going on? We've never had this many hits ever. Like, what? And it just suddenly we were flooded with submissions. Like, I just didn't expect it. It was in that last week when suddenly we just had so many people submitting their work. It was really cool. It was really exciting. But yeah, we just kind of like reject it. I know that's bad editorial, but it was just like the work in here is really good. Like, you've probably seen it. Like, the photography is really beautiful, or like the poetry is really nice. And like, this is all like amazing work. Like, how can we say no? And so we just kept saying yes and yes, until it became like as big as it is. I have no regrets in that sense, because I think it's amazing work. But it was just like, it did kind of go slightly out of control. But again, like, I think we just figured it all out as we went along. And like, if we ever did something like this again, like, we have a better sense of maybe how we would plan that. But yeah, I feel like that was kind of probably the biggest challenge when I think about it. The other thing is that our translator, well, we had 2 translators, and they both actually had to leave the project about halfway through. This caused a huge amount of panic, because there's so much, like, because we wanted this to be bilingual. So we wanted people to be able to read both English and Arabic. So even, you know, like, language would not be a barrier for this. But even then, ultimately, this is supposed to be like artistic. This is supposed to be visual. Everything in here should be extremely accessible to everyone. And then the 2 languages was also always something Al-Yamaniah tries to do on Instagram posts and things. So yeah, so I thought I really want to bring that spirit. I really want to bring that kind of like both sides are represented. Everyone can access this piece of work. But we lost both of our translators, and it was actually really stressful trying to replace them, because we needed people who could put in the time and were like reliable. And yeah, it took us like a few months before we found people who could join the team, and so there was just a backlog of work. That was also stressful, but everything was okay. Everything will be fine at the end.
I think another thing I wanted to say with like the challenges, but also like what came out of it, is that like, I think who you work with, like the collaboration with Asma Ibrahim was really good, because like in the past I've worked on creative projects when it was like me and that person would not work well, and I feel like me and Asma worked well, because obviously throughout the process there would be times when I was just feeling like, oh, this is never gonna end, like it's not looking good and I can never finish it. But Asma was like really on it. Like, Asma was motivating me and was like kind of keeping the standard, because I feel like there's so many times when I would have just kind of like stopped, or just stopped for a few months, and then I get a message from Asma, so how's the magazine going? And it was like really helpful, because it's definitely harder to motivate yourself to do a project just by yourself, but when there's that accountability, like a healthy one, it definitely pushes you forward. Because I feel like lack of motivation on like a self-made project can be a thing. Like, I felt it quite a few times throughout the project, but yeah, like having that like support in between each other is quite like an important thing that keeps you going, I think.
Create together, that's my message. Like, get together and do cool projects. It's so fun and it's so exciting. And like, you can support each other, and when one person is like, you know, done a lot, the other person can kind of, you know, come through and have lots of energy and that kind of thing. I think bouncing off each other is really important, and I think that kind of community element was exactly what drove the whole of the magazine. And we were so reliant on like the support of our friends and like people that we knew, and we would make them go through the magazine, and then we would stare at them as they did it, and then we would ask, like, we would watch their face, be like, okay, like their eyes got bigger, so that means that like there's a reaction. I want to know, what does that reaction mean? Like, did they like it? Were they surprised? Did they think it was terrible? And we were just using people like around us. Sorry, using sounds very I know, that sounds bad. We were asking people very kindly to contribute in the ways that they could, and that was often them telling us like, oh, we found a typo, and I'd be like, oh crap, how did I miss that? Or it would be, have you thought about reordering something, or have you thought about doing XYZ? And these are people from like, you know, not necessarily from an artistic background or a creative background, but just like people who were willing to look at it and give us some of their time and energy. And I think that was really valuable. And again, part of that sense of like, you know, everyone is putting a bit of time and energy into something. Like, I think it made me realize that anytime you pick up a book and it just has like the name of the author, it just reminded me that it's not really true that there's one person behind like anything. Everything is sort of the culmination of like all of the influences and support and like, you know, proofreading and whatever, and all of these things. Like, there's so many ingredients, and so yeah, I think it's just back to community and back to like kind of mutual support and collaboration.
All of these challenges that you guys face shows us like how you guys never gave up in your preservation. And we take you guys as an inspiration. And honestly, from what all of you guys are saying, it's making us feel like, oh, there's nothing impossible. Like, we could keep on trying. Yeah.
Yay. Good.
For you.
Okay, so my question is, what are your future goals you want to accomplish?
Big question.
So like, have you guys thought of anything that you want to do after like publishing this book, like this magazine?
Well, if you're talking about sort of print related projects, we're not quite done with Al-Yamaniah. We left it some time, and we've kind of come back to look at it, and we're thinking to celebrate the second. Don't tell anyone we said this, is a secret, but we want to celebrate the second anniversary of printing the magazine, which will be coming up this spring, by doing an updated edition. So it's not a new edition, but it will be kind of like with some bonus extra content, and like maybe a few changes that we've like reflected on and think we would like to see in the magazine. So I think that's kind of something we are secretly working on at the moment. That's in terms of print work. Asma?
Did you mean it in terms of like related to the magazine, or just like in general? Like,
I think in general, yeah.
In general. I mean, you know, like get a full-time job to start with, I guess, but because the industry is tough. No, but it's obviously possible. But I think since working on the magazine, I got more excited for like digital design and graphic design. I'm still not like entirely sure what like the difference is, but that sphere. And while like working on the magazine, I was experimenting with like Illustrator and Blender, which is not something I've done before, because before I was just used to like Photoshop and editing images, and I got quite excited about like 3D things. Not to say that I'm very confident at doing that, but I do watch a lot of Blender tutorials and kind of like follow those because like I feel like there's so much that can be done in there, and I can't actually use Blender without a tutorial yet. But I think because a few of the when we were making the Al-Yamaniah magazine logo, I tried a few versions in Blender, and that was the first time I used it. It didn't actually make it to the magazine, but those were some of the like trials, and it was quite interesting. So I think since then, like the art that I want to create, I think I want to combine more photography and digital, and I'm not entirely sure what it's gonna be, but I have like some projects in mind when I want to like reflect more on like my identity, but I think like closer to family. So that is also like a secret that I haven't fully started working on. But like I think the project that I have in mind to work on is that I want to do some digital work combined with poetry from one Czech Syrian poet, and potentially do like a short film of my family to like reflect that Yemeni and Czech side. Because I feel like ultimately when you're like I feel like it just feels most authentic when you're doing something about you. I mean, no, obviously you can do things that are not about you, but I think like I'm at the stage of my life when I have the need to do that. So I think, yeah, in terms of like personal goals, it's just developing my creative style. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do, like developing my creative style. Because I feel like when I started, especially at university, there was like a specific style or standard that was presented to us. And I feel like it takes time to develop your own style just because there's so many influences and you don't really know what you're doing, or like I don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like now I feel different than I did 4 years ago. And it feels quite nice just because the things that I look at are different. So yeah. So yeah, I think like developing my creative style is one of the biggest goals.
Yeah, I agree. We have a college class where we study multimedia arts, and using Illustrator wasn't easy at first, but with like more practice, I think I got better, which, yeah, I agree with development. It's like key to success.
It's actually like good that you're good with Illustrator. Like I feel like I'm not very good at using Illustrator unless it's like text. I haven't like I don't know how to make a heart in Illustrator if I think about it now. So I think, yeah, like getting better at that would be good too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, who was your biggest supporter? Okay.
Asma was.
Biggest.
That's
Okay.
Pardon?
Do you both agree with that?
Oh, who was your biggest supporter?
I think the community, like anyone who knew that we were working on the magazine, friends, especially the ones that Asma mentioned, that they like would take their time to review the magazine. Yeah, I think, and like I think each other, like I feel like Asma was my biggest supporter when it came to that, which I like I felt that, but I feel like not many people knew that we were working on it, but anyone who kind of did was very supportive of it, which I really appreciated.
I agree. I think there was a lot of enthusiasm when people heard about it. I think also because there's nothing out there like Al-Yamaniah. As far as we are aware, we never found anything that looked like this. And I think because it was new, because it was kind of filling a niche, and it was just a bit different. People were excited about the idea, and like sometimes there was this general enthusiasm about the idea, but then when we finally like started having like test prints out and people could see something physical and real, it was always really inspiring to look at how someone reacts to your work, and it would just like because in my brain I'd be focused on all the things that we still needed to do, or focused on all of the, I don't know, like I have to fix XYZ or whatever. I'd just be kind of focused on like what's all the things I need to fix. So I wasn't very good at like appreciating what we did create at the time. I don't know, like sometimes it's that like being your own worst critic. And I would only like get a reminder or like a jolt to be like be excited about this when I could see it through someone else's perspective and their fresh eyes, and they would get like, they would be enthusiastic or excited about it. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, like actually this is not bad. This is all right. Like, yay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it just starts on its own.
Also, I wanted to mention that I really love how you guys represent Yemeni women. Like, I feel like there is a representation to the Yemeni women, and that makes us very proud to see that there is some Yemeni ladies that put work to succeed. Yeah, succeed and actually provide us with something that we never knew that we needed, but once we saw it, it was like, that's crazy. It's amazing.
It was like amazing to me too, because I've been following Al-Yamaniah, but I think once we got the submissions, like there would be like artists from Yemen and artists living like all over the world who identify as Yemeni or like have some sort of connection to Yemen. And I feel like in the media, how Yemen is represented, well, not very well, and especially Yemeni women like don't get much of a voice in like the Western context, especially. So it was quite like nice just looking at their like art or reading the poetry and being able to put it together, because I feel like that's the thing. They like Yemeni artists exist, but I feel like, I don't know, they don't have like a huge amount of following, or like you don't know about them that much. Like I didn't know about a lot of the artists that we have like featured in the magazine before we got the submissions, and then you kind of see the submissions and you're like, oh wow, like she's really talented. And I feel like it's just harder to get that representation. So I was like also really happy to see that like the Yemeni voice.
I think Instagram is so powerful. Like it really is. It's just like it really, I think, has been such a way to kind of share, propel, like creative work. It's been, I think, it is true that like Yemeni society could be quite conservative, and like a bit sort of more, I don't know, hesitant to maybe like, especially for women, to kind of like share their work or put their face online and things like that. And so like it just means that sometimes you don't know what's out there, or you're just not aware. It's kind of like a bit hidden away. But Instagram, I think, has been one way where people share their work. But then also we found that people that, artists we'd never had any contact with or never heard of, or even just people who just experimented in their free time and had never shared anything online before, were submitting their work in response to the call out. And that was really nice. Like there's a real variety in terms of like early career versus like mid-career or like quite established artists in here. And I think that's, I think it's just such testament to what's out there. And I'm not joking when I say it was really hard to reject work. Like it really was difficult to turn anything down. Like we found that like there wasn't much that we could reject in terms of quality, because either it didn't fit the theme, or we just felt the quality wasn't quite there, or it was perhaps like, I don't know, too close to something else. But it just blew me away as well, because like I knew that there was artistic talent in our community, but it's actually way more than you expect. And I have to remind myself that our population of Yemen is like 25 million people, which is quite significant. And that means there's just so much, out there, and so much creative work. And not all of it is necessarily being created at this current moment. We are very much like aware that there might be differences in like levels of privilege and like access to materials and all of these things, and that there's a difference between the diaspora and there's a difference between people working within Yemen and all of these layers to it. But it's kind of a start. And the more that I think the idea behind Al-Yamaniah was always that when you find Al-Yamaniah, you find lots and lots of Yemeni artists, especially like women artists. You don't just find, you know, one thing or one person's work. And so when, for example, we have those very long contributor lists where we put a bio and we put down their Instagram handles and things like that, it's part of that same spirit to just sort of make sure that, for example, like this, so each person can kind of also have a read and be like, okay, well, tell me about this person, and I can find out where they're based, and I can see that, you know, there's someone in here called Samira Hadi, who's a Yemeni American from San Jose, California, and she's written about like her work in education, and now she's you know, doing XYZ and all of these things. And there's people from like Singapore and Canada and wherever submitting work, and it's just really exciting to get a sense of like their stories and how they've ended up in Al-Yamaniah magazine, and it's all come together sort of in celebration of their heritage. So yeah, I guess it's always about creating something bigger than ourselves. It's about celebrating like the women in our community, because I don't think they get celebrated enough.
What was the most meaningful or emotional story you featured so far?
I think I really enjoyed the story. I think the artist's name is Shaikhah Al-Tamimi, and she kind of featured, like, she used a lot of her family photos. It's towards the end. She like used a lot of her family photos and kind of like spoke of migration, and I think she did it in like a really beautiful way, and it was provided with information as well. And yes, that project, thank you. And I did find that very like moving, because she shared really personal things, and there's that story about the honey, and I think it was done in a very beautiful way, and like I think that was like the first thing that I thought about. I think another thing, it's a bit self-centric, but I did use some of my family photos in the magazine, just like popping in when like we didn't have like content to fill it in. So I think that was quite emotional to me, because then I like showed my dad, oh look, you're in the magazine, and he was like, oh, I was very young there. So I think that was quite, I guess, like nice for me.
I think we're going to open up questions from other people that have questions. Does anybody have a question they want to ask? No? Okay, I'm mad. Our cameraman in the background wants to ask a question.
It's not a question, but it's a question on kind of common. So my name is Amar. I'm from Sudan. So just look up like through like the magazine and see a lot of stuff from Yemen. I've never been in Yemen. I wish one day to be there. So I feel like we have so much in common between Sudan and Yemen. And then I feel like, so I asked her like, so you guys have this and then that, you guys eat this. And I kind of like know a little bit about Yemen as an Arabi. So yeah. And then the other question is, what piece of advice would give us, like I can like take it and then leave this room. So as a Yemeni or as a woman. Yeah, as an artist, yeah.
Sorry, what kind of advice would you, like what kind of advice would we give to like an artist? Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
I think just like, it's a cliche, but just like keep going, because I feel like throughout the process of just creating work, there are so many times when I think it's quite challenging, And I think it's meant to be challenging. And I think the challenging parts make you kind of grow as well. Like, I feel like there were so many times, like, I don't know, during uni and after uni, when I was thinking I should have gotten an office job, or I should have like just gone for a major that's easier. And I think, you know, like, I think it's okay to take time off. Like, I've had time off a few times, but I think just trying it again and again, because I like, when I look at like my university and most of my classmates, I feel like most people stop doing art, which is quite sad. And it's like, it's not easy, I think, necessarily, but I think it's really nice when you like, oh, like, I did this. And it's actually been quite a nice process, because yeah, like, obviously there's been so many times when it's just like difficult, and it's even difficult to look at like your own work. At least like that's what I've experienced. So I feel like knowing that there is that challenge and being okay with it, because I think, I don't know, like, I think when I started doing anything creative, I had the expectation that it would just flow naturally. It doesn't flow naturally. Like, I think to start with, you need discipline, which I think is quite difficult. And yeah, like, as in, basically, I don't subscribe to that, like, oh, you're an artist and it's all just like in your head and you just pick up a pen and it happens. Like, I think, yeah, I think there's like motivation and support and just perseverance. I think that's like most important advice, and a bit of networking, actually. Sadly.
I would echo the networking bit, or not necessarily networking, but the reaching out to people. I think, I mean, we reached out to artists on Instagram. We just said, we absolutely love your work. We're obsessed with this specific photo. It would fit so well in the magazine because we're dealing with XYZ theme. Like, how would you feel about like letting us use this in the magazine? Would that be okay with you? Like, you know, we'll acknowledge your rights, things like that. Like, we were just reaching out. We were just like, and also artists reached out to us. Like, they would get in touch with us, or they'd DM us on Instagram, or they'd email us, and they'd say like, oh my God, we really want to submit something, but we're not going to make it in time for the deadline. Would you be willing to extend it for me? And we'd be like, yeah, of course. Or, you know, they would have like, sometimes people submit things really last minute, or, you know, people just message and say like, I love your work. Like, can I contribute in some way, or whatever it is? Or, you know, I love writing, and can I write a piece for you, or whatever it is. And I think don't be shy. Just drop a message or an email or whatever to people who you think, I really like their work, or I think they're really cool, or maybe I'd really love to work with them one day, or maybe I want to propose an idea or a project. You just don't know how people will respond. Like, the worst that can happen is they say like no. You know, like, the worst that can happen is that, or they just don't reply. You haven't lost anything if that happens, if you really haven't. But you have so much to gain if they do engage, or they do say yes, or they are interested, or maybe they propose something else entirely different, and it works out for the best. I don't know if this is like, I don't know, my impression of Americans is that they're really good at being quite talkative and reaching out, and like being quite confident and like sort of go-getters. That's my impression anyway. That's sort of how you guys come across to us. British people are not stereotypically like that. Much more shy and like to themselves, and like get a bit, I don't know, they're not necessarily always great at like, I don't know, being out there and confident and talking to people. I think it's something we have a lot to learn from Americans on this thing. But yeah, I think if you're just willing to put yourself out there, share your work, reach out to people, I think it's genuinely something that you can actually like just dedicate time to, and be like, okay, who can I reach out to, or whose work can I celebrate, or even if it's just a message of encouragement or appreciation. It's a really good thing to get into the habit of doing, if it's not something that you do, or it's not something you've ever done before. I really recommend it. Because it's those kind of messages that we received, or those kind of like emails that like made our day, or like got us really excited, or like open new pathways. Like one thing can lead to another. Just don't underestimate that. Like it could be that 30, I know you could reach out to 30 people and nothing happens, but you reach out to one, you know, the 31st person and everything changes because they get really enthusiastic about your project or whatever it is. So yeah, I think, yeah, just put yourself out there.
Maybe last question. Yeah.
I have a question here. I have actually a good question.
Say your name.
Hello, my name is Ahmed. I'm from Yemen. And actually, I have two questions here. First question, do you speak Arabic? When I mean Arabic, like Yemeni accent?
Yes, but not enough to write well. Like when, as in like, I can't translate the poetry. That's why we needed translators. But yeah, I can.
Hamdi is proper San'ani. Like she speaks like her dad does. You wouldn't believe she was raised in the Czech Republic.
When I see the book, I hear a poem. It says, أنا لمن في البيت أنا أظل أحلم بالبيت من أنا في البيت أتساءل لمن أنا في البيت أحلامي زجاج. I wonder what the story about it.
It's this page over there on the top right.
Yes, on the slide.
I wonder what the story behind it, and I wonder if you can see the stories in Arabic as a different, because you have men speak Arabic in this.
That was Ahad, right?
Yeah, that was Ahad al-Kasiri's work.
I don't think that we can really speak on her behalf because that was a submission. So I think only she can say what she actually meant by it.
Yeah. I will double check if we received like a description about the piece of work she submitted. I don't think we have a written description in the magazine, if I remember correctly, but I'll double check afterwards and I can send it via email to Zach.
So
I think Ahad would be like happy to answer that.
Yeah.
He's wondering what.
Yeah, I just want to know if there's a story behind it, or just because look, they have meaning. Like for example, you say "Ahlami Zijaj." There's like behind it meaning. I just wonder what that means.
Very beautiful.
I think the photos, like the text is on, I think it's pieces of glass. So I think that's where the Zijaj connects, but I might be wrong. That's just what I'm thinking.
Oh, that the photo is of glass?
Yes, I think it's glass, isn't it, Asma?
Yeah.
I think it's like a glass installation with colors and text on it.
Yeah.
So I think that Ahlam has judged could be a metaphor, but seems that there is a connection to the fact that it's actually written on glass. But that's literally just like my interpretation. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I think we should double check with her.
Yeah, I'll double check. It was definitely based on our interpretation of her work. And, I think like thematically, it fit very well into like the idea of like al-dar, or like the home. And then it also just like it fit into the subsection of like naqsh. So it was focused around like patterns and fabric. So like visually and like thematically, it clicked for us. I felt that there were questions here that were just interesting to think about. There's something kind of dreamlike about even the installation feels very kind of dreamlike to me, at least. And it also, I thought the fabrics made me think of like like I don't know, like your prayer mat, or like what you might wear when you pray, or like the fabrics on like a blanket, and all of these like different like things that you might have randomly in your house. It just felt very like grounded in like that. Yeah.
There are the things that
We want to thank you all for answering all of our questions and for also creating this beautiful book and representation of like not only the identity of being a Yemeni, but a Yemeniya especially. I think one of the things that resonated from what you said is just how it's okay to fail when we're doing art and doing these type of projects. So like keep doing it as much as you can and persevere through what's challenging. And I think I have one last question before you go. I hear that you guys are going to reprint this. Are you taking any new submissions for the reprinting of this? I feel like there might be some Yemeni here that might want to submit things to your resubmission. Or you say you don't say no. This is one of those moments.
If anyone wants to submit anything, you are more than like welcome to submit something. We'll send the details to like the email address that's best to submit things to, and we can see what we can do. I can't guarantee anything, but we'll absolutely have a look and see what we can make happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Also, we're just to say, we didn't manage to ask you many questions back, but we're really excited by the fact there are so many of you also like just pursuing like your creativity and like creating work and just sort of being really enthusiastic about all of this. I think it's really beautiful to see, and we really want to wish you the best of luck with whatever you do end up doing and creating. And like I said, like our DMs are open, our emails are, you know, very, very happy to receive anything or even just to, I don't know, answer any follow-up questions or anything like that. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and your questions.
I do agree. I was looking at your website, and yeah, like the work that you all make is really beautiful. So I do also wish you like a lot of luck, and yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. Inshallah.
This is all thanks to
thanks to Mr. Shouq.
It was lovely talking to you.
Nice to have you. This was like such a good. I knew this would be good, but it was like so good. Thanks to you for all they made. I didn't write any of those questions. They didn't make any of those slides. Like all of this was prepped in advance by Shaikhah. And
It was excellent.
Yeah,
good question as well.
Thank you again. We'll follow up by an email and we'll get some more information. We'll send you some of our work too.
Yes, please. That would be amazing. Thanks so much for organizing.
Thank you.
Get some sleep. Good night, you guys.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.
That left.